I've got to tell you about this road trip around Rajasthan, mate.
Play the theme music. Hello and welcome to this episode of Tripology. I'm Alan and I'm here with the ever cynical Adam.
Is that really you, Alan? Is it you at the other end of the line?
It's a version of me. It's some sort of kind of me. Whether it's the real authentic me, only time can tell.
Yeah, do forgive me, mate, but as you know, I am back in India now, and you'll know from first-hand experience, not everything is always as it seems in this country.
Yeah, sometimes there's mirages. There's things that at first seem harmless, but then cascade into a kind of realm of unknowing. What's happened to you?
Well, what that means is that if you spend long enough here, you tend, if you're like me, to just assume that nothing is as it seems and that there's always a catch, which means you've permanently got your guard up, which I think in some cases, in some respects, is actually quite good as a traveller. But in others, it means that your interactions with people are pretty weird.
Yeah, by the time I'd been in India for 6 months, I was kind of going around like an Aikido specialist, trying to use people's body weight against them as they came up to me in crowds. I was getting into tuk-tuks and really agreeing the price in triplicate before we went to... I had a signed form with me that I would get people to finish off and go, right, listen, we're agreeing a price. Please don't ask me for more money when we arrive at the destination. Sign here.
Yeah, I'm walking around Jaipur and there's a lovely old gentleman approaching me on a street corner saying, "Hello, sir, would you like to try some of this aftershave?" Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sure it's aftershave, is it? Okay.
The old aftershave trick, yeah. I'm a victim of the Chinese tea house scam, and I won't fall again with your ethanol-based perfumery.
You wait until I tell people on the podcast about this.
Yeah.
But, mate, in general, I'm really loving being back. I'm enjoying myself a lot. It's been a lot of fun. But, yeah, I really do want to talk to you about this road trip that I'm on because it's moving at a rapid rate.
Well, I'm glad you called me. I'm here for you, not just in the role of a co-host on a podcast, but also sort of a therapeutic friendship experience for you. So do tell, share your story.
Yeah, it's quite nice actually because we're going to be talking about places that you've been to as well. So I'd like to get your sort of perspective, what your experience was like. I know you sort of saw it in different circumstances, but it was quite recent. And it's always good, isn't it, when you meet up with another backpacker, albeit your best friend, and talk to them about the sort of stuff you've done. Maybe there's going to be some parallels there.
Yeah, you go, oh, I've been to that hostel as well. Oh, I had that thali in that diner. Oh, I met that member of staff. He were right cheeky to me.
Yeah, nice one. So, I mean, Jaipur, just rounding off Jaipur, loved it. Of course, the pink city of jewellery and block printing fabrics. You didn't get involved in any block printing when you were here, did you?
Famously known for its block printing and jewellery, Jaipur, isn't it?
It is. It definitely is.
Yeah. No,
the rest of India.
I didn't see anyone block printing.
Oh, I went to a little block printing factory. It was amazing. I thought it was a perfect job for me. Yeah. I looked, when I went there, I thought, God, if anything goes wrong with this podcast, which, you know, we both hope, touch wood, pray to the Lord that won't happen. However, I think I've got a career in block printing because it's incredibly repetitive.
Yeah.
And you need a high attention to detail. Two of those things I do have. Unfortunately, and you'll back me up on this, the third thing you need, especially if you're going to work in a factory in India, is speed.
I don't think there's a career that's more dissimilar from podcasting than block printing in an Indian factory. I can't draw any parallels between the two.
Yeah, but maybe I wouldn't even be allowed to listen to this podcast if I was working in a factory. We had to sub in a different co-host for you. But I think speed would let me down. These guys are going at a rapid rate, and the precision is just something to be marvelled. It's great.
I think that comes with practice, though, the speed. I think maybe on your first day you would be quite a slow block printer, much in the way when we started podcasting we would talk like this. But then with time, we've really sped things up.
Yeah, I'm sure once you've done a few fabrics, they're exceptional though. If you are interested in block printing or jewelry, head over to Jaipur. Out of anywhere in India, I've been told, but just be careful because it might be a scam. You just never know.
We saw someone block printing together, didn't we? Was that in Dharavi in Mumbai? But I remember seeing someone do some printing on some fabric with you, and we both were quite impressed.
Yeah. I also think a lot of the block printing fabrics, dresses, other garments, and things that are sold, men's shirts. Looking at a few nice men's shirts, originate in Jaipur anyway. Even if you buy them in Delhi or Mumbai or elsewhere in India, or even exported to the UK and the US and stuff. So it is certainly a hub if you're interested in your jewelry and your fashion. But we left Jaipur after a nice time, and then embarked on what I described as in the last episode as quite a bougie endeavour. Because if you remember rightly, mate, we hired a private driver, me and a very good friend of ours. So, I mean, what do you think about that initially? Is that something that you've done? Would you do it?
Hire a driver?
Private driver around India? Because I've met lots of people beforehand, lots of tourists who've been to India who told me that they hired a driver, and it makes things incredibly easy. I wouldn't say it's sort of a backpacker thing to do.
Yeah, well, you know me. I'm sort of the backpacker's backpacker. I'm a young man. I'm sort of quintessentially a bit of a vagabond. I like journeying around with my carry-on backpack. You know, a few episodes ago, you turned 35. So things are changing. The dynamic has shifted. You're very much now ascending to sort of a councilman of travel. So I will say I'm not surprised that you hired a driver. I'm proud of you. Much feels like a natural progression for you.
Oh, brilliant. Fantastic. Next, I'll be chopping in my backpack for a suitcase, will I?
Yeah, I've seen you sort of eyeing up. Your Amazon history is a right mess. It's like looking at those wheeled cases, hard luggage with a wheel. But it's just more convenient for city travel.
Yeah, that's so funny. No, we knew this day would come. I didn't think it would be so soon. But the driver himself, I want to introduce you to him. Lovely guy called Lukesh. Okay. He's maybe a little bit younger than me, sort of mid to late 20s. Super guy. Didn't speak a lick of English, by the way.
You say didn't, so have you been teaching him?
Any English? No, because everything was done through my friend who's Indian. So
he doesn't speak any English. He doesn't.
No, didn't speak a lick.
You've departed his company now. I understand. You're talking about him in the past tense, so he's either learned fluent English or he's dead.
No, I mean, talking about he's a fantastic driver. Let me just tell you that, Lukesh. Right. He's an amazing driver, and he got us out of some sticky situations. He was able to weave through traffic. I mean, he wouldn't. I reckon he probably would have made it onto the podium in a Formula One race if he had a different set of opportunities, dealt a different set of cards. I reckon he's a natural. But there was one time we were going along the road, mate, and I was editing a thumbnail in the back of the car on my laptop. And I was doing some work on the trip.
Yeah.
And we were hurtling down the road. And as you'll know, with India in general, and I apologize if this is offensive to anyone, but there are I wouldn't call them rules, but some things are just guidelines. But just because most of the traffic on the left-hand side of the road goes one way, it doesn't mean that the odd car or cow or dog or coach isn't going to be coming in the opposite direction. Yeah. And I was editing this thumbnail, and all of a sudden I heard Lukesh. He hit the horn and just continued, so loud for so long. I was immediately startled, looked up, and there were two cars coming towards us at breakneck speed. I mean, they were going as fast towards us as we were to them. But we were
How
driving
far away?
I mean, less than 100 meters.
Nice, I like that.
And they were hurtling towards us, and we just kind of braced ourselves in the car. It was absolutely terrifying. And I think what was happening was the car that was on our left coming towards us was trying to sort of overtake and cut in front of the other car going in the opposite direction. But because we were coming towards them, it realized it didn't have enough time. So it kind of just ended up staying in the middle, and we were going to have a fucking head on. And at the last minute, the cars parted ways either side of us and whizzed past our window going in the opposite direction. I don't think I've ever been so scared in a vehicle, honestly.
Lakesh sounds like almost like an automobile Moses parting other vehicles in front of him as if they were the Red Sea. Sounds
Well, it
like
was the Ganesh on his bonnet, was it? It was the Ganesh on his dashboard.
yeah. Did you see that? It almost felt like a sort of spiritual trunk whipping the vehicles out of the way before you.
But no, I mean that kind of set the tone for the rest of the trip, as it would. But yeah, we were on our way to a town called Ajmer. I don't know if you went there, but it's very close to Pushkar.
No, I avoided Ajmer. I went straight to Pushkar on the hottest bus ride of my life.
I mean that takes some beating. So
it appeared in an episode of Tripological Reasoning, a previous episode. Fans can go back and listen. When I decided to take the non-AC sleeper,
yeah, I remember it.
The AC seater.
Oh, was it?
Ruthless journey from Jaipur to Pushkar. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, that's a good few hours as well. I don't envy you.
Yeah.
So Ajmer, yeah, lesser known than Pushkar, I think, certainly on the backpacking circuit. But there's a very famous dargah there, which is sort of Sufism is a mystic body, they call it, of Islam.
Yeah, so my understanding of Sufism is like, essentially, I know that Rumi wrote these poets which are almost Islamic allegories, and it's like a sect of Islam that sort of focuses on a specific aspects and sort of brings Islam to the masses through these artistic works, which are very specific and sort of the homely aspect of Islam, maybe.
Yeah, spiritualism, ritualism, and sort of a connection with God, that sort of experiencing God in a slightly different way, I guess. And there was a very famous dargah there, so that's basically a shrine or a tomb that's kind of built over a person of religious importance. And when we were going through the streets, we got out of the vehicle. Lakesh parked in a really expensive car park, but we won't talk about that. And then we went through the streets. And do you remember last time I said that Jaipur was like how I imagined India to be before coming here?
Yeah.
So Ajmer is like how I imagined India to be about 1,000 years ago. It's like going back in time. You'll see this when you go to Istanbul. The bazaars, the markets, the tight cobbled streets, the merchants, all this kind of stuff is incredibly busy.
What's Lakesh driving you around in? A DeLorean?
No. It's just a little pokey...
Going back to the future across cities.
No,
we're 1,000 years back in time now, Lakesh, are we?
It was a coach, Alan. I hired my own coach to fit my suitcases. But it was just a little pokey, little tourist vehicle thing. You know, you see those. It wasn't a Maruti, it wasn't a Suzuki Maruti or whatever they are. It was a step up from that. It had a trunk on the front and the back.
Useful for your wheelie hard luggage that you're now using.
Yeah, and Ganesh's nose. But I was on edge already. Already because there was a lot of people in the streets. My hands were in my pockets. I was thinking, if I am going to get pickpocketed, it's going to, maybe I won't even know in this scenario. And I was with my friend as well, who's female. So, you know, I felt like I sort of needed to protect her in a way. And it was...
What kind of way? What kind of way would you protect her, do you think, if you had to?
Just making sure I was walking through the crowd first.
What would you go to be, do you reckon? Kung Fu? Jiu-Jitsu? A stern talking to?
Now you've put me on the spot. I actually don't know. I don't know how I'd react in that situation. I was trying to, you know, like the way you'd maybe swallow dive. Come back. With my arms behind me. But walking through the crowds, managed to get to this dargah. And honestly, mate, you'll know exactly what I say by this, but it reminded me more of a Hindu temple than it did sort of a Sufi shrine. Because, you know, when you went to that place in Kolhapur where I was waiting outside and you said it was one of the most awful experiences you've ever had inside a temple.
That was a Hindu temple to Kali.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was sort of akin to that. It was incredibly busy, lots of people. You could actually walk around the entire sort of perimeter. It was almost like courtyards that extended around the entire perimeter of the central shrine, and people were praying on the floor, people were having picnics. It was like this some of those overgrown temples you see in Cambodia, for example, that remind you of like Tomb Raider. You know, there's like banyan trees coming out of nowhere and things coming.
They remind you of Tomb Raider because Tomb Raider was filmed there. In Cambodia. Yeah. It's like going to Petra in Jordan, being like, "This reminds me of Indiana Jones." Yeah, It does. It really reminds you of that.
Shock. But yeah, I mean, people were coming up to me all the time. I was the only white person there, by the way. And we walked in to the shrine area, which is in this room. And there's some gentlemen are sitting up on these sort of platforms, and they're giving out things and asking you to donate money and stuff. And I didn't have anything covering my head. So very kindly, I was given a headscarf by one of the gentlemen there that was sort of managing the flow of traffic.
I think you should get a buy for that sort of thing, because you've got such a lovely head of hair. I almost think that should qualify as a head covering. It's like everyone comes in and they're like, yep, sir, you need to wear this, you need to wear this. Oh, no, you can go straight through, sir. Those lovely locks.
Hello. I'm actually getting my hair cut today, would you believe? But they didn't allow it. So out of order. So went in, and this guy immediately asked for money as a donation. And I turned to my friend in what I thought was a very soft, low-level whisper. And I said, is this a scam? And the gentleman who was taking the money said in English, almost in an English accent, very assertive, said, no, it is not a scam. It's a donation. And I was like, oh shit.
Well, difficult in it. Those two words used in different contexts can mean very similar things. No, sir, I'm forcing you to donate.
But he asked for 500 rupees as a donation.
That's a lot of money in India.
It's a lot of money. But I thought, well, how much is the headscarf? If that's 500 rupees, then maybe it's a good deal. But I went in anyway, paid my respects. You sort of wish for something, right? People have these like bracelets made out of sort of string, and they make a wish when they're there. They tie the bracelet on, the piece of string on, they make the wish. And then when the wish comes true, they come back to the shrine and remove it.
Oh, wow. So much confidence. Well, Adam, I want to hear what your wish was. Well, in order to prepare myself for that thing, I'm going to have to meditate.
Let's go on a meditation break.
Like a bracelet tied around a Sufi shrine, conjuring a wish from the future into the past. Allow your conscious mind to return into your brain as Adam tells us all about his experiences exploring the spiritual sect of Islam called Sufism.
I've got to be honest, mate, that's almost sort of where it ended, because once we got out of there, we did a little walk around, a little lap, sort of soaked up the atmosphere and that sort of stuff. There are multiple gates to get into this place, and I'll be honest, we had a difficult time finding where we'd left our shoes.
Well, so, I've noticed that you've swerved telling me what the wish was, perhaps because of some metaphysical reason that forbids you from doing so, but I know the pain of leaving a temple and then struggling to locate your shoes. You know, I'm a man who's had my shoes stolen on several occasions whilst exploring India, and it's a joy, isn't it? You have to locate where you put your shoes. Sometimes they've been put in a box by someone.
Well, yeah, the cynic in me is going, well, they've been stolen, obviously. I mean, why wouldn't they have been stolen? There's got to be the most plausible answer.
Oh, so the donation was 500 rupees and a pair of shoes, was it?
I'm going to wear this headscarf on my feet. How'd you like that?
Yeah, okay. 500 rupees, but I've got this headscarf, and let me tell you, the wish I made is going to be so destructive. Terrible.
Yeah, long story
Never
short,
scam a man who's just made a powerful wish. That's all I'm going to say.
Long story short, couldn't find my shoes, went all the way back to the car, and Lakesh had them. So he's almost too good at his job.
So let me get this straight. What happened was you went to visit a shrine, you put your shoes at the front, and you went in, and we've heard the story. Behind the scenes, Lakesh gets out of the car, sort of scurries behind you, locates from memory which ones were your shoes, and goes, he'll want those for later. He takes them and brings them back to the car.
Yeah, I mean, in his defense, I'm sure he would have communicated that to me if he could have spoken English.
I mean, I'd forgive him for assuming, but your friend speaks fluent Hindi, does she not?
He's exceptional at his job. I put a link in the description. He's asked for a review. If you ask me, it's 5 stars. He's amazing.
Is he doing your haircut as well? He's amazing.
No. Do you know what? Just on that note, it was his first job. He was very open and honest with us, and he said, "This is actually the first time I'm ever being, working as a driver for some tourists. So, sort of hope it goes well." And I'm thinking, well, it's not the first time you're driving, though, is it?
It's good, this, guys, because I've actually got an 100% success rate at driving tourists with no fatalities. Lukesh, I actually find it quite strange that you essentially stole my shoes when I went to the shrine. I was like, oh, the people don't do that normally. Well, that's just one of the services I'm going to offer in my new tourist tours business.
Yeah, it's not obligatory, but you can leave a tip at the end.
I've taken the liberty of going into my trunk and removing your suitcase, opening it, taking your clothes for the next day and laying them out on the back seat for you, just to make your life easier.
Yeah, here's a tip. Don't steal my shoes. So we carried on, mate. We got all the way to Jodhpur. And
nice.
Did you like? That's the blue city, isn't it? The blue city, Jodhpur.
I didn't get as far as Jodhpur.
Okay, don't beat yourself up. If you've seen enough temples and enough forts and enough palaces and some little quaint streets that are painted one color or another, I think you can imagine roughly what Jodhpur's like.
The reason I didn't go to Jodhpur was partly because I've been to Chefchaouen in Morocco.
Right. Which it's been twinned. It hasn't been twinned. That's incorrect. But I've seen on other blogs, people have said exactly what you're saying. So please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Chefchaouen makes Jaipur look like it ain't pink at all. Chefchaouen's like the whole city's been painted blue in such a way that, I mean, it looks like you're in the sky, were it not for the fact that you're very clearly in a city. But it's very strikingly blue, is what I'm trying to say. Whereas Jaipur is just a function of its building material.
Sure,
Jodhpur,
but I mean,
do you think it sits more in the Chefchaouen camp or the Jaipur camp?
No, because I mean, if you were to go to Jodhpur and maybe view the city from a height, and someone was to say, "Oh, Jaipur has been dubbed the Pink City. What do you think Jodhpur has been dubbed based on that information?" I would have gone for, I'd plump for blue because there are quite a few blue buildings. So in that sense, I think the Moroccan city probably pips it to the post.
Yeah. You would be insane if someone did the same experiment with you in Chefchaouen and asked you that question and you said anything other than blue. It would be a real cause for concern, I think.
Yeah. I think this city is called the Arabic for blue. But it's not Jodhpur I'm actually going to talk to you about. It is a little village that's a little bit outside, about a 45 minute to an hour drive outside of Jodhpur, called Salawas.
What colour is it?
I mean, it's almost the same colour as the sand because it's on the edge of the desert.
It's called Salawas.
Salawas.
Okay,
Salawas. If you like.
I saw sneaking into the shot then, people who listen to the podcast and watch it on video will see a little piece of paper just stuck into the shot there when Adam recalled from memory the name of that little village.
Yeah. Thanks very much for that, Lukesh. Appreciate
it. Okay, tell me about Salawas, man.
So we basically caught wind of this place. We found it on a blog, and it's this lovely family, husband and wife. And I found out afterwards that the husband actually sort of runs with his brothers a little travel enterprise, if you like, a little empire where they offer certain tours and cultural experiences. And also you can stay at their property, which has sort of modern versions of traditional huts. So they're just sort of like, imagine like a mud hut, clay hut or whatever with straw roof, thatched roof, out in the middle of nowhere, tiny, tiny little village. And we ventured out there, absolutely stunning property, got there in the evening, had dinner with the family at night, and sitting out on their courtyard, beautiful starry sky, lovely clear sky. I just thought, this is what it's really about. This is what I imagined traveling around the desert to be like in Rajasthan. I mean, Rajasthan is a vast state, of course. So very thankful for that, really, that we had a vehicle and we could sort of at the drop of a hat decide to do that. We stayed there that night, and that evening, the gentleman who ran the place, he said, we also have this tour. It's just a morning. It'll be roughly like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. You can leave here after breakfast, and then you finish around midday or 1 o'clock. But you basically go to a number of different areas around this village where there are different types of people and communities, and you can have sort of an immersive cultural experience and see traditional village life. So I thought, wow, what an amazing opportunity to get a little taste of what it's like outside the cities. And it's almost like in some of these areas, mate, like time stood still. Because I'll quickly run through the tour and then we'll talk about one of the experiences in a bit more detail. We were picked up in a 4x4 and then drove about sort of 20, 25 minutes. You do a pottery class, which is something I've never done. And
that's classic tour material, though. I've been on a tour where I did a pottery class in Vietnam. It's like a classic tour activity, isn't it?
I guess so. It's not something I'd ever done. But when on your pottery tour in Vietnam, what were they using as the spinning wheel?
It was a hand spinning thing. You spun it. It was like just a piece of stone that you'd spin on, like a little spinning disc.
Yeah.
Oh, but not electric though.
No, I think
just
that
a piece
is
of
like
stone on a slab that you would spin around.
Yeah, and that is not even with a foot pedal, right? It's got to be the most sort of simple, archaic way to do it, but the most traditional. And that's exactly what this family were doing. I mean, incredibly difficult. Got this huge, big stick that they're using to initially spin it, and then it gains momentum and stuff. It's absolutely...
it's really hard, isn't it, to keep going?
Yeah, it's incredible to watch. And this lovely old gentleman, one of only 40 families in the area that are still making pottery this way, he's just an expert. It was unbelievable, the precision. Every single piece that we saw there was made by hand. And even with my aforementioned high attention to detail, I couldn't pick which one was different. You would have thought there would be an imperfection somewhere. But I was astonished, and we had a go. He let us have a go. It's so funny. And the clay, I assume you had a go as well. The clay's actually much firmer than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it's really hard to manipulate, especially one of those things because it looks so effortless when you see an expert do it. They're really just manipulating a pot, and out of this slab, something emerges like artistic and beautiful. And then when you do it, you feel so much like you are just manipulating a piece of earth that it just doesn't do what you want it to do. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it was actually the gentleman who we were staying with. It was his brother that took us round on the tour in the Jeep. And I will put their name and the company's details in the description because I do want to promote them. We did have a fantastic time. They're lovely people. But he said to me when I got on the wheel, he said, it's important to not manipulate the clay with your hands. You have to do it with your mind. And I was like, what?
Oh, right. So you're one of 40 families in the area that still have telekinesis, are you?
And I'm glad
you put your telekinetic powers to good use and decide to become a potter.
Yeah, maybe it's a good idea if I don't involve my mind because I'm pretty sure that I'm going to fuck this up. But it was. I got it pretty close anyway. The guy seemed like he was supportive of the pot that I had made. He was encouraging and said, it's not that bad. It's your first one.
Was it like a scene from Ghost where he sort of came behind you, put his arms under your arms and manipulated the pot with you, teach you how to do it? It's one of the most romantic things you can do is make a pot with someone.
No, that wasn't it. That wasn't it at all.
It's your first pot, he whispered gently in your ear.
Yeah, that was actually the reason we promptly left. To the
Cash, come and pick us up.
That was the reason we promptly left to the second part of the tour, which may interest you because have you heard of the Bishnoi people?
No,
the Bishnoi. There's about 60,000 of them apparently, and they are sort of a community that live across northern India, and there's lots of them in Rajasthan. They live their lives by 29 sort of principles, right. I guess.
30 was too much. You're too principled, aren't you, if you have 30?
No,
it's too rigid.
I think there is a reason, if I could remember, but the guy did tell us why there was 29. I'm pretty sure there's a religious reason or whatever, but I can't remember off the top of my head. However, the men, they're very distinct because the men will wear a white turban and a white sort of long sort of coat, if you like, all in white.
Sexy.
The women typically wear red. And we went out to see, just sort of experience village life. We went right out into the sticks to this lovely sort of small farm where this Bishnoi family live. And we were told that we would be able to witness an opium ceremony.
Wow.
Yeah, really cool.
Now I know you.
You had me at opium ceremony.
You had me at witness and open, and then
you can't tell me we're going to do opium and and I'm going to make a pot on the same tour. But the thing is, basically they have this sort of contraption which is apparently dubbed a portable shrine, and the opium is consumed sort of at celebrations, occasions, and that sort of stuff by the Bishnoi people. Now, I hope this is right, because I have done a little bit of fact checking, and I did speak to the guy about this. It is illegal to consume opium in India. However, there are large fields where they grow poppies, especially to make opium or produce opium. And then the Bishnoi people have their own allocation of opium that they're allowed to sort of consume.
It's like a religious exemption almost. A cultural exemption. Right.
Yeah. Although, having said that, I read on the internet that one of the commandments, the 29 principles that they live by, says that the Bishnoi people shouldn't consume opium. Now, that's obviously conflicting, contradictory.
We like it's 28 principles that we like to adhere to.
But I'm not going to out them live on air. However, I'll just quickly describe the ceremony. They make this sort of crystallized block mix, a little melange of jaggery and opium, which is 40% opium and 60% jaggery. And then they blend it with water and create this solution. And then they strain it through this portable shrine, and then they drink it from their hands.
Wow. So it must be quite sweet, because jaggery is very sweet.
And then
opium famously quite bitter.
Are you asking me how it tastes, or can I?
I am. Did you go to the portable shrine and have a handful?
It was right in front of me, mate. And I don't want to compromise the marketability of the podcast. So maybe I'll leave that bit to the lost and found section.
Okay, well, right. Yeah.
So, at patreon.com/Rapology podcast. There's a little bit after the podcast where we sort of gloves
where Adam describes taking opium for the first time with the Bishnoi people.
Lukesh, quick, start the engine.
For as little as $1, you can hear that kind of story. Patreon.com.
But no, it was like really awesome to be there, and it's so crazy, right? When you think about being a tourist and what it means to be a tourist and how we're treated and how we behave and that kind of stuff. The guy sort of nipped off in a bit of a rush after giving us this demonstration. This lovely elderly guy, he must have been in his 80s, bless him. And I spoke to the guy that was driving us around, and I said, "Wow, is everything all right?" He left in a bit of a hurry, and he said, "Well, the tractor's waiting for him outside. They're on their way to a funeral." And I was like, "Well, why is he doing this for us?" It was
right, yeah. And he was on opium at this point, so it's going to be a wild funeral.
Yeah, I mean that may well be one of the uses, mate. But it was really cool to witness, and from then on, I mean, as you can imagine, the day just got better and better.
Well, I loved hearing about it, mate. It sounds like you and your two friends now in the road trip were having a whale of a time, baby. That was amazing, mate. I loved hearing those stories, and I can't wait to head over to the Lost and Found, where we'll hear a little bit more about it. If people want to write into the show, if they think, "Oh God, how can I communicate with these guys? Mm-hmm. Can I use telepathy like a Indian potter?" No, don't do that. Go to rapologypodcast.com, where there's a form. It's a bit like pottery-based telekinesis, but it's a web-based version. Type in a message. You can let us know your thoughts and feelings, or ask any questions. Instagram.com/rapologypodcast and YouTube, all that sort of stuff. Watch the podcast, listen to the podcast, share the podcast, and we'll see you next week.
We'll see you there. Bye.
Bye.